What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I want to talk about Tesla stock and break down something very important that's developing on the chart. We're going to see a very important test on Tesla very, very soon. I want to break down something very important about tomorrow because we have Jerome Powell speaking, and what he says could really shake the entire markets. So I want to break down this chart on Tesla, talk about something very important on it. I'm also going to talk about some other tickers out there from SPY, Nvda, and the QQQ, and then talk about something very important right now. But before I do anything like this, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward, and the offer ends in just 7 days. Anyways, looking at Tesla, things are not looking that great from a technical standpoint because we're getting very close to a bearish cross on the PPO. And what does worry me about Tesla would be this bearish divergence that has formed on it. You can see on the RSI, and also I think it's on the MACD, not as clear on the MACD, but on the RSI for sure, we have a bearish divergence after getting this rejection off the 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. Tesla's also broken below the 50 EMA, and it's getting very close to testing some critical support. So we have a very important test coming on Tesla as the market is continuing to weaken. You can see SPY's dropping right now, looking very bearish. So with all of this going on, I just want to mention that the market just does not look like it's getting a decent bounce, and whatever happens to it tomorrow is going to dictate how Tesla moves. So what's going on with the markets? Why is the market dropping? I just want to mention that we had a Fed speaker. Harker was speaking today. They were being kind of dovish, actually. They were saying that the Fed should not give us any more rate hikes. They were saying that there was a lot of inflation being made. A lot of progress being made on inflation. Okay, and with all of this going on, okay, the market continued to drop. It didn't really care what Harker had to say, and that's because what Harker said, even though he was being kind of dovish, it didn't affect the market that much because the market's not too worried about him. The market is more worried about Jerome Powell. When is Powell speaking? He's going to be speaking tomorrow, a little bit after the market opens. So at about 10:05 a.m. Eastern Time, New York time, 35 minutes after the market opens tomorrow, Jerome Powell is going to be opening his mouth and giving a very important speech. Honestly, guys, I don't know what he's going to say. Is it possible for him to pump the markets? It's a possibility. It is possible. Is he going to dump the markets? That's also very possible. The last time he spoke at Jackson Hole, the market dropped 5% over a period of like a couple of weeks. The market just continued to sink and sink and sink. We had a big rug pull. Jerome Powell was very, very aggressive. And that's because of the fact that inflation was soaring to the moon. Inflation was going up and up and up, and it was not looking good at the time. So the Fed was being very hawkish. The Fed had to continue to raise rates aggressively, and Powell caused a big rug pull the last time this happened. The market remembers that, and the market is fearful. The market is uncertain. That's why we're selling off, despite the fact that other Fed speakers are being kind of dovish. Now, the thing is, okay, the context is not the same. Powell does not have to be that aggressive, but there's a chance he may say some hawkish things. He may talk about more rate hikes. He may say things the market doesn't like to hear, and there's always the possibility of more downside. Now, on top of that, I just want to mention that if he speaks about unemployment, the current jobs numbers, which are looking relatively strong, he could use that as a reason to be more hawkish, and that could cause the market to slow down. He could also end up saying things about the current wages. I mean, I don't know if he's going to like say too much about that, like specifically in the context of inflation, but he could say something like that. So there's no telling what he's going to say. He may be hawkish, and that could be why the market is selling off this hard because it knows something. And we'll have to just watch and see how the market ends up moving going forward. So just be ready for this. The market is quite fearful, and Tesla is continuing to slow down. So looking at Tesla, things are not looking that great from a technical standpoint. I just want to mention that we formed a giant bearish divergence right here. Maybe it's not giant, but it's relatively big. Uh, this right here, okay, is making me look a little bit more bearish. When looking at Tesla, it looks a little bit more bearish. This bearish divergence is starting to play out, and the really important test is going to be this 227 to 226 area. If we end up breaking below this tomorrow with Powell speaking, we're going to see the whole market is going to be sinking anyways, and Tesla's simultaneously going to be breaking down into the lower 220s if Powell is very, very hawkish, if the market sees a big rug pull. Okay, there's a possibility of this. The current technicals look more bearish. They're looking a little bit weaker on Tesla's. We're about to get a bearish cross. So it seems a little bit more probable that we might see more downside thanks to Powell. Is it a guarantee though? Not a guarantee, because technicals are not everything. Powell, whatever he says, could always cause something that's super ironic, something that's unexpected. And that's why we have to be open minded. I just want to say that it's still looking weaker on Tesla, in my opinion. So when it comes to levels to watch for, okay, you're going to be watching these levels right here. For Tesla to turn bullish, if it wants to break out, you're going to be watching resistance around this 234 to 235 area. You could see right here, Tesla tried to test this after getting this very, very big drop. But right here, you could see we need to break above this and get above 235. If Tesla does so, the 50 EMA is going to act as resistance very close to 236, but the real resistance comes around this 238 area and then 240 above that, followed by 242. And for Tesla to turn bullish, we have to hold at least above 238. Then it could continue to push up. It has to break this high right here. So far, it looks like Tesla's not doing that, and it still is not looking that great because of the bearish divergence. That's the first thing. And the second thing is we got this rejection very close to 235. So it's still struggling to hold above these higher levels. Now, for support, you're going to be watching 230 on Tesla. 230 is going to be very, very key. If 230 breaks on Tesla, it's going to come down to 228. And if 228 fails us, the next level is going to be very close to like 226 to 225. 225.53 is the specific level. And below that, if it breaks below that, there's going to be 221. It's going to be a big drop to 221 if that's the case. There's also a gap, I believe. There's an unfilled gap all the way down to about 215 that could get filled if we do start to see some very hawkish language from Powell. So just be open-minded. What worries me about Tesla is the fact that this is forming kind of like a double top-like pattern with the bearish divergence. So this is looking more bearish. The overall setup looks more bearish. It looks like Tesla is going to most likely see downside, but just to be open-minded, the chart is not always everything. Whatever Jerome Powell says is going to be more important. Okay. So always be open-minded. That's going to be very key for Tesla. Now for today, it's looking like Tesla came down pretty hard with the market, but Tesla's showing some strength as it got a better bounce than SPY did when I was like measuring it. So it's not looking like that's horrible, maybe not as bearish as the whole market is, but it's still at the same time not looking that strong. So what I want to tell you is that we're kind of range bound right now between 230 and about 234. If Tesla breaks below 230, that's going to be a bearish signal. So we want to see it hold above 230 for the time being. We want to see it hold 230. If it could hold it, there's going to be some hope for it to try to hold these levels for tomorrow, at least approaching Jerome Powell. And if it breaks below 230, it's going to start sinking. So that's going to be our very, very key test right now. That's going to be very, very key for Tesla. So watch support and resistance. Tesla's kind of like range bound right now between these two levels. We'll see which way it breaks for the time being. I think it's just going to be stuck and kind of like chop around for the rest of the day, not really doing anything too significant. And then at the end of the day, I mean, if there's last minute selling, that could also happen with Powell. So maybe like it's closer to 230. But watch 230 as support. We need to try to hold above this. If it ends up closing below that, that's not going to be a good sign. And then the overall structure, the bigger time frames, the bigger structure on Tesla is what looks more bearish. And it still does favor more downside, after Powell speaks, going into early next week, maybe. But once again, it all depends on Powell, so I'm just going to wait and see what he has to say. For SPY, this is also looking kind of bearish because we had a very, very nice looking head and shoulders that formed. This head and shoulders is what I called out in the morning, and this ended up playing out. Now, with us dropping this hard and breaking below some major supports, you're going to be watching support currently around this 439 area. If that breaks, the next level is going to be 438.2, very close to that. We could see it break down even more. It is struggling to hold above 440. To turn bullish, you want to see it hold above 440, then break all the way up above this resistance, which is going to be very close to 441. And if we hold above 441 and get above the 200 EMA, 442 needs to be tested and broken for us to turn like a little bit more bullish, for us to get a decent sign of a bounce. So far, it has not done that. It is trying to base around 439, but it's still not looking strong at the same time because we're selling off overall. If you look at the current MACD, always look at the 30-minute MACD or even on the 4-hour time frame. But the 30 minutes is one of the most important ones. It's still looking bearish. No crossover. It's not crawling much. So it's still not looking that good. The market is still looking weak. And this could slow Tesla down as time goes on too. So it's looking weak. Watch support. We're kind of like range bound between, I would say, 440 and 438 if we do end up breaking below 439. And just watch these levels very carefully. I just want to mention that's looking weak right now, but then everything could change depending on Powell. Maybe he causes a big rug pull and the market tanks, or he causes a big bounce. It all depends on him. The odds favor Powell causing more downside looking at the current technicals. On the QQQ, it's the same thing. It's no different from SPY. If you want to be bullish on this, you want to see it hold above 366. You want to see it hold above that for there to be some hope. So far, it has not done that. It came short of even testing 366. So still looking weak. Support is holding very close to about 363.25. If that breaks, if it breaks below this, then the next critical support is going to be around 362.25. If 362.25 breaks, which is where we had this previous resistance right here, it's going to sink down to 360. That's going to look bearish. How does the current trend look? Well, when you zoom out, it looks more bearish to me, right? We could be forming a nice head and shoulders like pattern. Maybe it comes up by the time we open tomorrow and just trades sideways here, and then Powell comes and causes a big rug pull. Maybe the market starts selling off thanks to Powell next week. Who knows? But it looks more bearish on the bigger time frames, just like SPY and Tesla. It looks more bearish overall on the bigger trend. Right now, we're watching the support, if it's going to hold this level or not. So just watch it very carefully and we'll see from there. But it looks more bearish overall. It's like the bigger picture as of right now. On Nvidia stock, not looking like too great or too bad. It still is technically trying to hold above 480. I was calling out the fact that yes, this thing is going to gap up, but we might see a big drop today, and that's what happened. Uh, Support is going to be around 480. This 480 zone is our support. Resistance is going to be around this 490 area. If it breaks below this 480 area, you're going to be watching 475. This is where it bounced today. Right now, I think it's kind of range bound between 490 and about 483 to about 480. It's just range bound going back and forth, not really doing much. So just watch it trade like this for the rest of the day, in my opinion. If we get an end of the day sell off at the very end of the day, we might see this thing sink closer to about 480 and close very close to that. But it all depends on if the market does get that last second sell off, because the market is quite uncertain about Powell. I find that very possible. So just be careful. And then we'll see what happens with Powell. He may cause the market to like bounce or not. We'll see. He could cause a big sell off. That seems more probable as of right now. For Apple stock, Apple's also looking weaker because we came down pretty hard today. We actually came down to 177.5. This looks more bearish. This overall trend looks more bearish to me. The overall structure on the bigger time frame. But right now, for today alone, we're kind of range bound between 177.5 and 178.5. We're just going back and forth between these support and resistance levels, and we're not really doing much so far. But I do wonder, are we going to come down to fill these gaps? There's a 177 unfilled gap. There's another one down here around 175. We have a lot of gaps down here. If we start tanking because of Powell, we could start filling those gaps. It seems more probable that that's going to happen as of right now. But I'm not 100% certain about that. It all depends on Powell, of course. You want to be open-minded. The odds do favor more downside with him speaking, though, in my opinion. So maybe the market knows something. Maybe he's going to say something the market doesn't like. Who knows? So just be open-minded and we'll see what the market does. Now, as far as Apple goes, right now it's kind of range-bound, going back and forth between 177.5 and 178.5. Not really doing much, but it could break down later on going into like tomorrow if Powell causes it, and if we are getting ready to break these levels. So if 177.5 breaks, you're going to be watching this fill the gap around 177. If that fails us, there is technically some support at 176.5, but it's not that strong compared to like 176. And if 176 breaks, it's going to sink all the way down to 175.5, and it could even break even lower than that. But there's going to be quite a bit of downside if we do break below 177.5 and fail to hold it. So I'm just warning you about this. There's a possibility of that. And if Apple does sink like this, it's going to drag QQQ and SPY down with it, in my opinion. That seems very probable. Anyways, guys, I think I went over the majority of stocks out there. Even though the overall trends are looking more bearish and the odds do favor more downside, okay, we want to be open-minded. We want to see what Powell has to say, and we want to just wait and see what ends up going down. Always be open-minded in a market like this and just be very careful. You never know what Powell could say, but just know it's very probable that he may cause something that the market may not like, and we could see some more selling thanks to that. All right. So with that said, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Watch your levels very carefully. Watch the resistance right now on Tesla between 234 to 235. This entire zone right here. Watch that. And Tesla's currently just testing its 200 EMA, going back and forth and back and forth. And we'll see what Tesla does, but just watch these levels and do what you have to do. And I'll see you guys later on for the afternoon video. All right. Have a great day. Tesla to the moon. Long term is still very bright. And peace out.